welcome to episode 10 of the Cozy Cottage Crochet Podcast. My name is Hannah. If you are a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back and spending a little time with me in my corner of the internet. If you are a new viewer, welcome. So happy that you are here. As always, I'm coming to you from St. Petersburg, Florida in the United States where I live. And if you would like to find me, you can find me on Instagram, where I am most active, and Facebook, and of course YouTube as the Cozy Cottage Crochet. If you have any requests, inquiries, anything about the podcast specifically, please do shoot me an email. That is the absolute best way to make sure that I see your comment. I don't want to miss it, so just shoot me an email. I have an email address set up specifically for the podcast called thecozycottagecrochet@gmail.com. The first segment of my podcast is normally, what am I wearing? But as you can see, I am not wearing any crochet. It is 95 degrees outside. It's a little warm right now. That does not mean that I have not been crocheting. I have tons of stuff to show you. But as soon as this is done, I'm going to be going out for the day. So it's just a little too hot to be wearing things made out of yarn. Hopefully, though, it will cool down. I have been wearing them all week at work, where it is always a freezing 0 degrees. Okay, that's a slight exaggeration, but it's always freezing there. So instead of what am I wearing, my first segment actually this week is going to be a little bit of podmin. I have some things to talk to you about. Number one is I've gotten a couple of requests for a Ravelry group for this podcast. Now, I did actually make a Ravelry group quite a while ago called the Cozy Cottage Crochet Podcast group. However, I have a confession to make. I'm horrible at Ravelry. I am not even good at keeping up with putting my projects in there, although I was for the last few months because I was putting them in the Keep Calm and Carry Yarn podcast, Cow, Knitters versus Crocheters, so I was keeping up with it then, but as a general rule, I'm pretty awful at keeping up with Ravelry. Most of my time I spend on Instagram or YouTube watching my favorite podcasts. That doesn't mean I don't love Ravelry. It just seems like it's not as much of a priority for me as Instagram. But I want there to be a group where you guys can connect with each other. And I know that makes me a terrible podcaster because I have been neglecting the podcast group on Ravelry. There's an introductions thread in there, and I know a lot of you have introduced yourself, and I have not responded. Now, I have read them all. I promise you I have read them, but I haven't really had a chance to respond. So what I thought I would do is put a request out to you guys in the podcasting crochet, crafty, yarny community to see if anyone would be willing to help me with the podcast group, because that is not an area of strength for me, but I know a lot of you spend a lot of time on Ravelry and you love it. I mostly go on there just to search for patterns and then to access patterns that I've purchased or downloaded. So what I'm looking for is if perhaps 1, 2, or 3 of you would like to help me by being a moderator in the Cozy Cottage Crochet podcast group so that we can kind of keep the conversation going, make sure that nothing crazy goes on. I think that would be fun, and we can kind of grow our little community. So if you are interested in being a moderator, administrator of that group, please shoot me an email to thecozycottagecrochet@gmail.com and just tell me why you would want to do it and if you have time. Now, I promise you I do not want to be a burden on anyone. If you are already crazy busy in your life, or if you already have a podcast, please don't volunteer to be a moderator, okay? I want someone who just has some time, is already on Ravelry, and wants to connect with people more about crochet. So if no one responds, that's totally okay. The Ravelry group will stay open. And I will pop in and out now and then when I can. But if a couple of you would like to be the moderators, I would love that. I would love to have some help with that. So just email me and we'll see. I will update all of you guys next time. That's Podmin number 1. Podmin number 2 is very exciting. okay? So I have had many requests to do a cowl. And if you don't know, a cowl is a crochet along. And I haven't really done one, I've never done one on this podcast. I've participated in many cows. In fact, if you've watched my previous episodes, I'm like, this project is for this cow, and this project is for this cow, and 3 cows. So I love crochet alongs. I just hadn't hosted one before. I think I am going to host one specifically for shawls. So everyone is getting back to school in the next couple of weeks. The weather will be changing. Not in Florida. The weather's not going to be changing here. It's still going to be 95 for the next 2 months. But where you live, fall might be coming. So we're going to host a September shawl along. Now, it's not going to be only for the month of September because I understand it's already the end of August and when I'm telling you about this. So the hashtag is going to be September shawl along, but it is going to be open for 2 months from September 1st all the way through October 31st. So that will give you time, because I have not given you much time to pick a pattern and get yarn if you don't have it already. So you can make a shawl, any kind of crocheted or knitted shawl. I will accept knitted items. The only caveat is no works in progress. Okay, this has to be a new project started on September 1st or later. I did get some requests on taking works in progress, and I know a lot of people do that, but I really want this to be a cowl where you make something new, either something that challenges you, a pattern that you've had your eye on for so long and you just never have gotten around to making it, a pattern where you have the yarn and you're just like, I've never gotten around to making this pattern with this beautiful yarn. It can be for you, it can be for someone else, it can be for a Christmas present. It doesn't matter who it's for, as long as it's either crocheted or knitted. I imagine most of it will be crocheted. But I don't want to limit it to that, because I know some of you have knitting patterns that you've been wanting to make for a long time and you just haven't started it yet. So we're going to host September Shawl Along. I will open a chatter thread in the Ravelry group. I promise I will open the thread right away so that you guys can start connecting with each other. I will not be opening a finished objects thread until September. And we will have some prizes, so I'm going to make some stitch markers to give away. I don't have the beads or the hooks yet, but I will be making some for a prize. I do have a ball of yarn to give away as a prize, which I will show you at the end of the podcast. And if you're a maker, you make anything to do with crafting or yarn, and you would like to donate a prize to the podcast, just shoot me an email. Or if you're a pattern designer, I think patterns are one of the coolest prizes to get because it gives you the opportunity to create something else. I won a pattern prize one time from a crochet along, and I have made that pattern. So if you are a designer or a maker and you are interested in donating a prize, just let me know. Shoot me an email, thecozycottagecrochet@gmail.com. If not, that's no big deal. We have a ball of yarn. I will make some stitch markers and anything else I can find between now and the end of October to make a prize. We will do that. So there will be at least 2 prizes because I have a ball of yarn and I'll make some stitch markers so far. So we'll have a finished objects prize, of course, and we'll have a chatter thread prize. So keep an eye out. On Instagram, if you're making a shawl, use the hashtag September Shawl Along. Tag me so I can see. As I said, I am most active on Instagram, so I probably will see it if you tag me. And then the third thing is Claudia from the Crochet Luna podcast and I will be sometime in the future hosting a Tunisian dishcloth crochet along. So a lot of people had expressed interest in learning how to do Tunisian crochet and then kind of following my journey over the last couple of podcasts on how I've been learning to do Tunisian. And what we wanted to do was a super simple Tunisian crochet along. So it'll probably be a dish. Now, you can make whatever you want, but the actual crochet along will be for a dishcloth or something simple. We haven't worked out all the details yet as to when it's going to start, but if you are interested in learning how to do Tunisian crochet and starting with something that's very simple, I started with a dishcloth, and I'm glad I did because the first half of the dishcloth is very wonky. The second half is beautiful. I'm still proud of it, though. But it really helped me learn how to do Tunisian crochet, as you will see in my finished objects and work in progress. So keep your ears tuned for more Tunisian Cal news as it becomes available. Okay? All right, that's all the Podman that there is. So let's jump straight in to finished objects. I actually have this week the same number of finished objects as I do works in progress, which is crazy. I don't feel like I've had an excessive amount of time to crochet, but I guess I have. I don't know. I didn't plan on having three finished objects, but I do. So let's jump right in. The first finished object is something that you guys have not seen in several episodes. It is possibly the hardest pattern I've ever made. If you remember back to the beginning of my podcast, specifically the episode on Stitchcation, I said that I was making the Seashore Bliss cardigan by Drops Design, which is this pattern right here. And you will remember me complaining extensively about the pattern. I spent a whole day working on it, and I got maybe like this far. The yoke of this pattern was a nightmare. It's all based on charts with some weird written instructions. It's like follow chart A1 through 16 stitches, and then follow chart A2. And it doesn't give you a lot of detail, it doesn't give you a lot of instruction. It was a huge learning curve for me because although I had used crochet charts before, I realized that I'd only ever used them in the round. I've never used a back and forth crochet chart, and certainly not a pattern with 8 charts. So the yoke took me forever, and once I finally split off for the sleeves and got to the body of the sweater, it started going really, really fast because it went down to only using 3 charts instead of 6 in one row. And then I showed you guys, the last time I showed this was when the body of the sweater was done and I still had the sleeves to do. So the reason that it has taken me so long to finish this is because the sleeves caused me some problems. I couldn't get the sizing right. So it calls for a 3/4 length sleeve. And so I made it according to the pattern. The sleeve was way too big, except that it was way too tight under my underarm. So it was really tight here and then huge down here. And I did the decreases correctly. I double checked it. So I ripped the sleeve out. Then I did it and I decreased some, what I thought would be enough decreases. It was still too big and I really didn't like how it came down. It just kind of looked weird. I don't know. So I ripped it out. I did it a 3rd time and I made little cap sleeves. They come to about here. And I think that it's perfect. I did the first round of the sleeves bigger than the pattern calls for to give me room underneath my arm. And then I decreased significantly to make the pattern fit my arm. This yarn is the Himalaya Perlina yarn in Bright Peach that you guys have heard me talk about like a million times on this podcast. I got it at Tuesday morning. From what I hear, it's no longer available at my Tuesday morning, which makes me incredibly sad because it's one of my favorite yarns. It's a sport weight. It is 50/50 cotton acrylic. You guys, I'm actually so excited to show you this. I can't even, I'm freaking out right now. I am so proud of this. I'm like more proud of this sweater than I am of finishing that king size blanket I showed off a couple weeks ago because of how hard this was. This is the sweater. And not only is it gorgeous, it fits perfectly. So let me show you. This is what I did with the sleeve. And then this is the yoke. Oops, I'm going way off screen, aren't I? This is the yoke. And then it goes all the way down to the bottom. I sewed these little buttons on. They're plastic, but they're made to look like wood. And I actually sewed a ribbon on as a button band. Now, you can see my horrible sewing skills because I hand sewed this on. And the stitches are literally all over the place. Like, these are the buttons right here. That looks ridiculous. But no one's going to see it because it's going to be on the inside of the sweater. And it gave this a lot more sturdiness and strength. I didn't put any kind of a band on this edge, but because it just goes straight through the crochet. So I'll put it on so you can see it. It fits perfect. I have not worn this yet. Let me stand up. I'm going to scoot back and stand up so you can see. So it goes all the way down to hip length, which is right here. I did make it longer than the pattern calls for because I just like my sweaters to be a little bit longer. I don't like cropped things. So I made it a little bit longer, and I took out some of the increases. So it was supposed to flare out pretty significantly at the hips, and I wanted it to be just a little bit more fitted than that, so I took out some of the increases. You can see that it's almost off the shoulder, which I think is kind of cool. I don't know. It may be, I may need to add like an extra one more row of double crochet or single crochet or something around the edge just to tighten it up a little bit. But see how the arm actually fits? When I did it the first time, there was like this much positive ease on my arm, which would be fine if I was going to wear this over something, but you can see right through it. It's a lace pattern, and I don't need that much extra fabric around my arm. So if you are thinking about trying this pattern, the Seashore Bliss cardigan by Drops Design, just be warned, this is not an easy pattern. I would say it's for experienced crocheters. I would consider myself to be an intermediate crocheter. I love to crochet. I've been doing it for years, but there's still plenty of things I haven't tried. But this pattern was like, once you get past the yoke, it's okay. And I have to say the end result is worth it. Did I give you a close-up of the lace? This is the lace pattern. So it repeats. It's so soft. I'm so excited. I can't wait to wear this. I want to like go on a date night, like out to a fancy restaurant and wear this cardigan because it's so gorgeous. So I used a 4.5mm hook. That's how I got gauge. So the pattern, I believe, called for a 4mm hook, but I might tend to crochet really tightly, so I had to go up. I did do several swatches to make sure. This is it. I'm going to stop raving about it now because I feel like I've been talking about this one project for like a half an hour, even though I know that's not true. I'm so excited about it because it was truly a challenge for me. And the reason that I hadn't showed it in so long, aside from the sleeves, is I was sewing on that button band, which I have to say, even though the sewing is terrible, I really think the ribbon matches perfectly. And I'm really happy with these buttons. So I will wear it as soon as it cools off just a little bit. It's just so hot outside right now. I don't think I can manage to even wear, like, even this cotton tank top is like too much for me right now. So that's finished object number 1. So excited. I am pretty excited about my second finished object as well. You saw it last time in my works in progress. It is a pattern out of the Summer Shawls book, which Simply Crochet put out last year. I have been very impatiently waiting for the 2017 version of this booklet to come out. It's out in the UK, but it is not here in Florida yet. I have been checking at Joann's, who carries the Simply Crochet magazine, every week for a month and a half. You guys are in the UK are like 2 magazines ahead of us. And I have to buy this. I have made 4 out of the 5 shawls in this book, and I want to make the 5th. So this is the Sunset and Sea Tunisian crochet pattern by Elizabeth Davis de Perez. I'm pretty sure that's wrong. I mispronounced it last week. I apologize. This is kind of what it looks like spread out. Now, she calls in the pattern for, I believe, a DK weight yarn. But I wanted to use stash yarn, and because it was my first actual Tunisian project other than the dishcloth I made, I wanted to use worsted weight yarn, not only because of stash, I already had all the worsted weight yarn, but because the yarn is bigger and the hook is bigger, it was easier for me to figure out what I was doing. I didn't want to jump right into a lace weight project. And it's finished. This is what it looks like. I'm going to scoot back. I think last time I only had about this much done, and I finished the whole thing. I know that it's blowing out in the camera a little bit because of the red. Like, this is coming up really dark, and it's actually like a bright emerald green color. All of this yarn I had in my stash, and I am fairly certain that all of it is Sincerely yarns. This red is Big Twist Sincerely yarn. So Big Twist is a yarn brand that Joann Fabrics has, and it's 100% acrylic, and it's pretty good yarn, I would say. It's very plump yarn. All of this blue, this one right here, this green, that is Sincerely Yarns before Joann's rebranded it. So this yarn I've had in my stash for years, probably 5 years I've had this yarn in my stash. This is what the ball band used to look like. Sincerely by Pearl Essence. Now it's Big Twist yarns, and it has Sincerely like in super fine print. This is the turquoise colorway, and I guess I'll tell you the stats even though you can't buy this anymore because this is like 5 years old. You got 170 grams and 322 yards, and it's a very round, squishy yarn. This was such a great stash buster project. I used all that I had left of the red, this blue, the green, and a whole ball of this light blue, and then I started in on this ball. So the only yarn that I have left like this is this blue one, and then I have a gray one. But I didn't want to put gray in because it's such a bright shawl. It's very thick. It's like wearing a blanket. I'm not going to lie. When I just threw this in the washer in the dryer, it softened up. It's so drapey now. And it's awesome. Now, you may ask, what am I going to do with a blanket shawl in Florida? I have been waiting all week to take this to work, where it is so cold. Yesterday at work, I was wearing my Colosseum shawl, and I had a hoodie on, zipped over my shawl, and my hands were inside my hoodie arms, and I was still cold. That's how cold it is in there. So I can't wait to take this. I'm going to take it on Monday and keep it there, and then I'm going to wear it. Now, this is my first ever Tunisian shawl. This whole thing is made in Tunisian knit stitch. Oh, that's kind of blowing out the camera. Let me do a blue one. It looks like knitting, but it's not. You can see on the back that's very bumpy. So knitting doesn't look like that on the back. The pearl rows look a little bit different. This is a very thick fabric, so this is way thicker than knitting and crochet. And then it has these cool little lace panels, which I think is just a fun, interesting detail. There's 3 little lace panels. Having done a whole shawl in Tunisian knit stitch and started on a new one, which I'll show you in the work in progress section, I can say that Tunisian knit stitch is the fastest way to do Tunisian crochet. It's just so intuitive as to where you put your hook that by the end of this, I was going very quickly through the rows. And that's it. Stash busted, Tunisian project, super warm. Whew, so I'm going to take it off now. The color's not really coming up true, but it's so bright. I love it. I may actually wear this when it gets cold in January in Florida. Listen, if you live in a cold place, you're just going to laugh at me. It gets to be like 60 degrees. If it gets into the 50s here, I'm pulling out like furry boots and a coat. Okay, I cannot handle cold weather. I like cold weather, but my blood is thin. I've been in Florida for 20 years now. so I can't handle it. So this will probably come out in a few months out of hiding at work. That's finished object number 2. Finished object number 3, I actually wasn't planning on making. But if you watch the Lindsay of the Lottie and Albert Crochet podcast, she has a pattern called the Lottie and Albert Rainbow Blanket, which is a chunky crochet blanket made with a 20mm hook and 6 strands of, I believe her pattern calls for 6 strands of DK weight yarn held together. I don't have a lot of DK. I think that in America, we don't really use DK weight yarn that much. At least certainly not in the big box stores. It either goes from like a fingering or a sock weight directly to a worsted weight yarn, which is more like an Aran weight overseas. So I have tons of acrylic yarn in my stash. From when I was first learning how to crochet, everyone gave me a lot of yarn. They were like, oh, I don't use this. Do you want it? And I was like, yes, of course. But then once I started making things to wear, I didn't really want to use that yarn anymore because it's too heavy, it's too hot, and sometimes it can be a little scratchy. So I had probably 25 balls in varying sizes and varying brands of acrylic yarn just in a drawer. So I split them up into 2 color palettes. I've got like a pink, brown, red, purple kind of a ball, and then I made a blue-green ball. And I finished a whole little blanket, which is right here. So this is it. It's still a little bit scratchy. I did throw this in the washer and the dryer, and it softened up considerably, as acrylic yarn will do. I think it could go with another tumble in the dryer. So it's not very big. This is a lap blanket. It seems big on the camera, but as far as blankets go, it's pretty small. So it's only this wide. It's not even quite as wide as my wingspan. I believe I might have chained 50 for this, and then I just went back and forth with double crochet. In the back loop, I started with this green, so I wound all the greens in my stash together. And then as soon as one strand would run out of a ball, I would tie a different colored ball onto it. So right here in the middle, we start getting brown, and then it starts going into a little bit of blue and light blue in the middle, and then it transitions into blue and black, and at the very end, it's blue, black, and white. So I almost flung that 20mm crochet hook across the room. That would have been really loud. So this is what it looks like. This is the color transition. When I was working on it, I was like, I don't know if I'm going to like this. But I actually really like the color transition, how it goes from green into like a muddled blue, and then it goes straight into the blue. It is the perfect size for sitting on the couch with this over your lap. I have not decided if I'm going to keep this yet or if I'm going to gift it to someone. I have an idea of someone I can gift it to already, actually. But I haven't decided. I do kind of like it. And it took no time at all. I would sit down and just do like a row or two every night while watching an episode of something, and it went super fast. And you can kind of stick your fingers through it. It does have some holes, but it's very warm. So this is a fantastic stash buster project. If you have just tons of yarn lying around, no matter what kind it is, that you just don't know what to do with, and you're not going to make something fancy out of it, like a garment or a shawl, wind it up. Make a big chunky blanket. I got this hook on Amazon for like $5. It's 20mm. It doesn't, I don't know what brand this is. Some like weird knockoff brand, but I mean, who cares? It's smooth, it didn't catch at all. Only thing you have to be careful of is because you're using so many strands of yarn, to get the actual yarn, the height in the stitch that you want, you need to push the yarn back to here. So if you just crochet down here, your stitches are going to be hard to work into, and they're going to be a lot smaller. So you need to make sure you're using the actual, this part, the width of the crochet hook to size your stitches. So if you've been thinking about doing this, I highly recommend it. I am actually going to make another one because that was all the blue and green yarn that I have. And then I have this ball. I tried to weigh this, but my scale in the bathroom won't pick it up. It like doesn't weigh enough, but I would estimate it's like 3 or 4 pounds, I would say. This ball is slightly bigger than the ball I made the blue and green blanket out of. So it's pink and purple on the outside, and then as you go in, it turns into like cream and brown and like a dusky pink. So I'm going to make this into a blanket as well, and then I will have officially gotten rid of most of my yarn stash of acrylic yarn. So I also have some, because I had some balls that like did not match at all, but, or some that I just wanted to keep or just had like a little bit. But let me show you. This is a regular ball of acrylic. This is the blanket ball. It took me forever to wind this. I think winding this is the worst part of making this. Melody from the Melody Crochet podcast said to me that she just pulls it straight out of the skeins, which I totally would have done. But because this acrylic yarn has been in my stash for years, and a lot of it was given to me and things like that, it was pretty abused. So there was a lot of tangles and yarn. I had to spend a lot of time detangling, and none of the balls were the same length, etc., because some of them had been used. So whenever I ran out of one string, I would just tie a different yarn onto it. And I thought that it would be hard to weave in the ends on that blanket because the stitches are so big, but actually it wasn't. I just went straight up the stitch and back down the stitch. So instead of going side to side like I normally do, I went through the stitch and back down, and the ends have not come out at all, even through the washer. So that's finished object number 3. Oh, you feel like that's a lot? Because I do. I can't believe I had 3 finished objects this week. I really wasn't, I didn't mean to, okay? Hold on one second. I'm a little under the weather. My husband has had a cold all week, and I'm trying to not get sick, but my throat kind of hurts. So we'll see. We'll see if I come down with the plague. It's a little early, don't you think? I mean, it's August. Normally, cold season doesn't start for another couple months. So, fingers crossed that I will not come down with the plague. All right, moving right along, let's talk about works in progress. I also have 3 of those that I've been working on this week. Number 1, you saw last week, of course, it is the Doppio Colosseum pattern by the lovely Faye of the Crochet Circle podcast. So I made her Colosseum, which is the bottom-up pattern. No, the top-down pattern. Now I'm making the Doppio Colosseum, which is the 2-skein version, which is the bottom-up pattern. So her pattern calls for, oh, here's a picture. Let me show you. Her pattern calls for 79 rows total. I have made it to row 59, and I'm about to run out of yarn. She uses, I believe, a fingering weight yarn, and I am using cotton yarn. Well, I'm using DK. It's a cotton rayon blend. It's Barocco Cotton DK. I have it in rose. I didn't write the color down. I think it's Rose Cliff is this color, and then this little color is Wetherill, which is the blue. So this is, I have made it through 3 of the lace sections. There are 4 lace sections. So for 20, basically what I'm going to be missing is another whole solid section, and then another lace row, and another whole solid section. But this is big enough, I think. So I'm halfway through a row. I stopped in the middle of a row. This is what I've got so far. Because my yarn is bigger, my shawl is going to be bigger than hers, even though I'm missing like 20 rows. I'm using a DK weight yarn, so it's going to come out bigger. It's just not going to be as deep, of course. So this is the color. I am in love with these colors. Like that and linen stitch is the coolest. It takes forever. Linen stitch takes forever. But the fabric that it makes is fantastic. So if I put this on, I think it's actually the perfect size right now to wrap around your neck one time. And it's cotton, so it won't be too hot. So all I have left, oh, I'm getting stuck. All I have left is this and this. 2 tiny yarn balls. I think this will be enough to finish the row I'm working on and maybe do one more row. We'll see. Of linen stitch, and then I'm hoping this is enough to finish it with a row of pink. This is really small though. These are like mini skein balls. So I should have this done by next time I podcast. I have nothing but positive things to say about this pattern. I love phase patterns. I've made 2 of them now, and she includes pictures. Her instructions are very clear, and I love the result. This is awesome. So, work in progress number 1, Faye, thank you for a lovely pattern. You'll see it next time, hopefully, as a finished object. Work in progress number 2 and number 3 are both out of the Love of Crochet magazine, summer 2017, that I picked up. I bought this magazine for one project in particular, which is, I'm not going to be able to find it now. This one right here. The Maritime Stripes Shawl. This is a Tunisian lace weight shawl, and I started it this week because I got through that worsted one, the worsted weight Tunisian shawl. I only want to have one Tunisian project on my hook at a time because I think that's fine. But I did start it. I am using yarn in my stash. I'm using Loops and Threads wool-like yarn, which is a lace weight 100% acrylic yarn. I love this yarn. It's $4 usually at Michael's, and if you get a 40% off coupon, it's even cheaper than that. I have the color mauve and I have blue. These are both yarns left over from other shawls. I've made 2 shawls out of this yarn so far. I made a Kristen Omdahl pattern, a lacy pattern for my mom for Christmas last year out of this mauve color. And then I made a lace blue shawl. In fact, I made this shawl in the Summer Shawls book out of blue for myself. And I really like this yarn. It is incredibly soft and it's very easy to work with, and it is lace weight. So I don't know that I'm going to have enough of this blue left, but that's okay. I'm going to keep going until I run out, and then if I need to buy another ball at Michael's, I'll just go. You do get 678 yards in one of these balls, and it's 100 grams. So I think that's a good deal. This is what I've done so far. That's the back. I'm showing you the back. Clearly. This is the front. Can you tell the difference? This looks way better. So you start right here at this point, and then you increase on both sides until you get to about 39 rows, and then you start increasing on one side and not on the other. So this panel is always going to be the same size, and this one's going to keep growing and growing and growing. And then you change colors every row. So I would not say this is a beginner pattern for Tunisian, because you have to float your yarn up the side. You have to know how to increase and decrease in Tunisian simple stitch, as well as knit stitch in the middle. That's what this middle section is a knit stitch running up the middle of it. I am really impressed with how good my floats are. Like, you can barely even see them. So down here, I feel like you can't even tell. You can kind of tell about the floats right here when we start increasing doubly on this side. But still, I'm pretty impressed with that. I'm not the best at floating yarn, honestly. So this is very soft. It's very light. I am on row 61 out of 241. So this is going to take me forever. You increase until row 119, so I'm halfway through the increase section, and then you start decreasing, and you go back to a point on the other side. So this is very slow going because it's lace weight yarn and because it's Tunisian simple stitch, which is not the fastest. That's why I said Tunisian knit stitch is faster, because it's just more intuitive as to where you put your hook. But I love the fabric it's making, and I cannot wait to wear it. So that will probably be with us for quite a while. But I'm very excited about it because I bought this magazine specifically for that pattern. The last work in progress is my Sandy Shore shawl, which is the one on the cover. Here is another picture of it. By Melissa Liebman. I really can't say enough good things about this pattern. It has brought me nothing but happiness. I definitely could have had it done by now, but I don't want to finish it. Like, I am going so slowly on this shawl because I am enjoying it so much. Except I ran out of yarn. I said last time that I was probably going to run out of yarn, and I did run out of yarn. But I want to give a special thank you and kisses and hugs to the lovely Wendelin, who had one ball of this Himalaya Perlina yarn in her stash. And she only had one, so she wasn't able to make anything with it. And she so kindly sent me this, and it arrived on the same day that I ran out of yarn. So thank you so much, Wendelin. That was so sweet of you, and I really, really appreciate it because you've given me the opportunity to actually finish this shawl. And I would have still worn it if it wasn't finished, like if it didn't come to a point at the end, but that would have made me really sad. So I'm so grateful to be able to complete it. This is how, it's huge. Look at it! So it's a little bit asymmetrical. It decreases more on one side than the other. Of course, this side is the one it decreases more on. I am right here. So I'm not sure how many rows I have left, but there can't be that many left. And this will definitely be enough to finish. The lace pattern, I love it. Look at it. That's so pretty. And I love the way it looks as it goes through the pattern. So all the lace pattern panels start going this way. I'm not gonna be able to take this off. No matter how hot it is, I'm not gonna be able to take this off after I finish it. It's so pretty. I love the pink. I'm so sad that this yarn isn't at my Tuesday morning anymore because it's one of my favorites. So this should probably be done next time too, unless I just get so sad that I'm about to finish the pattern that I procrastinated on purpose. Although I don't think that's going to happen because I'm really, really excited about wearing it. I'll have to finish it and then weave the ends in and then block it and wash it. So that will take some time, but I can't say enough good things about this pattern. It's gorgeous. Gorgeous. Whew. Okay, I feel like I need to turn the air down. The last segment I have for you guys today is Happy Yarn Mail. I got some yarn in the mail. The first yarn that I got in the mail was this, which was from the lovely Wendelin, who helped me finish the shawl. The second yarn I got in the mail was from a giveaway winner in a previous podcast episode. Joni, who won the Creme de la Creme top, has heard me talking about mandala yarn and how hard it is to find. And I know a lot of you are having trouble finding mandala yarn. She sent me, because her local store had tons of it, she sent me 2 balls. Let me show them to you. So we've got, this is the colorway Unicorn, and I think that's perfect for unicorn. It's pink and blue and white. And then the colorway Wood Nymph, which I've actually never even seen this one before, and I think that is beautiful. It starts with purple, white, goes into like a blue, purple, pink. So one of these will be a giveaway prize for the September Shawl Along. So if you have not been able to get your hands on some mandala yarn, join the September Shawl Along because one of these will go to one lucky person. I'm thinking it's probably going to be this one because this one is just my favorite. And if I love it, that means you guys would have to love it too. And I love this too. Don't get me wrong. They're both gorgeous. But this one, that's just, I love the pink. So this is going to be a prize for the September Shawl Along. So thank you, Joni. That was so nice of you. I'm going to share the yarn love. I'll keep this one, and I'll give this one away as a prize. And then finally, I got over my anxiety and placed an order online for yarn. I know all of you guys do that already, and I am not doing anything that is abnormal. But it does give me anxiety to order yarn online because I want to touch it. I want to make sure it's soft enough. Like I want to rub it on my face, okay? I want to squish it. I feel like I need to do that before I say, yes, I'm going to spend money on this. So I very rarely order yarn online unless I've already purchased it and know what it feels like in a store. So, however, I need yarn for projects, and a lot of people, like 30 people, recommended knit picks to me a few episodes ago when I asked for recommendations for reasonably priced yarn online. So I placed a knit picks order. I spent $53. So I got free shipping because I spent over $50. Now that was like my yarn budget for all of August. So it's no more yarn for me, but it's not really a big deal because I got 21 balls of yarn for $53. That is unheard of. I took the advice of Clarisabeth. Hi Clarisabeth from Crochet Cakes podcast. She recommended to me that I look in the discontinued yarn section. So sometimes the websites will have colors of certain yarns or yarns that are discontinued, and they'll be way discounted, even though the regular price might be $10 or $12 on knit picks. This yarn might be $4. So let me show you. They sent it to me. I got it yesterday. I opened it. I lost my mind a little bit. I was a little concerned because it rained a lot yesterday and the box was very wet. However, it was very well packaged inside a huge plastic bag and then like twisted and wrapped around again. So none of the yarn was wet at all. I got 2 sweater quantities of yarn, both 100% acrylic in sport weight. So this is the Knit Picks 100% acrylic. You get 273 yards for 100 grams. And this is the colorway Asphalt Heather. And then this one is the same in the colorway Wine. It's like a beautiful maroon wine color. I have 2 sweaters to make with this. For the wine color, I am going to make a sweater out of the Top Down Crochet Sweaters book that I've had for a little while. It's going to be a cardigan. It's the Magda Cardigan. It looks like that. See if I can get a better picture. This is kind of a picture of the top of it. I don't know that I'm going to do those ties. I may just not do the ties and just have a cardigan to wear. It's got, I don't know how well this is coming up, but it's got cables. Crochet cables. And it's made top down. And it uses a sport weight yarn, so it's perfect. And I just think this is going to make the most beautiful sweater. And I take a cardigan or a hoodie or a jacket of some kind with me everywhere because it's freezing indoors and it's very hot outdoors. So it's going to get a lot of wear. So that's why I picked this acrylic yarn because I've heard very good things about how well it holds up and you can just throw it in the washer and the dryer. So I want to just be able to wash this. I am not opposed to taking really good care of beautiful yarn. and projects made with that, but for something I'm going to wear constantly, I really want to be able to throw it in the washer and the dryer. So that's an upcoming project. That will probably be the project that I do for the back to school sweater along, which is being hosted by Tamara of Crafty Escapism and someone else that I should have written down, but she's the one I've been talking to about it, and the threads for that is over in the Crochet Circle podcast group. But I think that's the one I'm going to make for the back to school sweater along. And then this gray is going to be in the new issue of Love of Crochet magazine, fall 2017, is going to be this bookworm sweater. This is why I bought this magazine, this sweater. It looks so good. So I don't know when I'm going to start that, but I bought the yarn specifically for it. I bought 600 grams of each of these. These yarns are $2 a ball. So here is all of my, this is all 5, so I have 600 of the Knit Picks acrylic yarn. And I have the same amount in this gray. That's not all I got though. So I also tried, I got some discontinued yarns. I got 3 balls of the Knit Picks Stroll Glimmer, which was on sale because they're no longer going to have the Stroll Glimmer, I guess. This is 70% superwash merino, 25% nylon, and 5% stellina. It is a fingering weight yarn. 50 grams, 231 yards. You can actually machine wash this. And the colorway, it has a number on it. I knew the colorway when I ordered it, but I didn't write it down. It just has a number. So the colorway is 25485. You can even see how sparkly that is. And it's very soft. So I got 3 little balls of that. Then I got, in the discontinued section again, a lace weight yarn, colorway Lilac. This is 70% merino, 30% silk. Now I thought that this might be actually a little softer because this merino nylon is softer than the merino silk. Why, I have no idea. But the purple color is coming up exactly how it is. This is lace weight. I got 3 of them. Because they were discontinued, they were like $4 each. 440 yards in one of these for 50 grams. So this is going to be a shawl, of course. And then finally, I got pink. I love pink. You guys know I love pink. This is an alpaca cloud. I apologize. I just had to stop that for a second because I just sneezed about 10 times. It just came out of nowhere. So this is 100% baby alpaca. 440 yards again. It's a lace weight yarn. And it's pink. It's pink. And I got 3 of them. And this is super soft. And this again was discontinued. So it was like 400. It was like $4 a skein. So I haven't worked with any of the yarn yet, so I can't do an official review, but just from squishing them, I am very happy with the Knit Picks yarn. I'm really, really happy with it. And all of this, plus 2 bags of this for $53. That's amazing. That's amazing. So expect some reviews coming up as I start to use these yarns. I will give you my honest opinion of them. I promise. All right, so that's it, you guys. The light is kind of getting dimmer in here. I think it's going to rain again. It was raining all day yesterday, and now it's going to rain again. But maybe that'll cool things off a little bit. So thank you so much. That's all I have today. If you liked this episode, give me a thumbs up. If you would like to be notified of upcoming episodes, anything I post in the future, just hit subscribe. Post a comment below. I'd love to know what you're working on. I love to connect with you guys. And doing this podcast is honestly one of my favorite things. Not the recording part, but just being able to share with you what I'm working on and then getting to actually connect with people. I've made so many awesome friends now online, so many new Yarny friends, and I just want to say I appreciate you. If you're a new viewer, I hope you will come back and see next episode. And if you have been with me since the beginning, you know I love you. So have a wonderful weekend. I will see you in 2 weeks, and happy crafting.